Alright everyone, you've probably seen some sporadic blackpilling with regards to Newtech lately. People are getting desperate to stop the Newtech sites because especially right now, like Rumble and Substack are exploding with growth. I know that Rumble's not technically Newtech, dates to 2013. It was initially just a video hosting alternative, so it'd be more like a Vimeo or Veo or something like that. But they've gone the free speech route. I know not in the puristic sense, which vexes some people, but it's an improvement over notorious older sites, let's put it that way. Anyway, one of the shilling attempts that I've seen, and some people spread it organically due to blackpilling. They've been demoralized. I would advise them not to be. Don't worry, listen to Uncle Sticks here, and he'll take care of your fears. They say, well, any alternative that springs up, like a free speech alternative, it's boring and nobody wants to use it because it's all just a bunch of right-wingers. Now, as a non-right-winger, of course, I'm using Newtech and I'm at the forefront of multiple sites. So, number one, that's not really objectively true. It's not just Trump conservatives joining these sites or whitest nationalists or something. It's libertarians. It's disaffected liberals at some point. Fucking Greenwald's the main voice on Substack, or one of them. He's a progressive. I mean, politically, we wouldn't have much in common, except that he's very much pro-free speech and against spying and journalistic non-integrity. I like him for that. I wouldn't want to have a conversation about welfare with him, though, because he'd probably start sounding like Elizabeth Warren. By the way, they class him as a far-right journalist. If you look at his Wikipedia, he's labeled far-right. Oh boy, how fucking wrong can you be, and how much of a denigration of what was once a great site. I remember when Wikipedia, before it went woke, it's pretty damn good. Now it's, for political reasons, fucking completely useless. I guess you can look up a list of U.S. bear attacks by year and you'll get plenty of accurate info. Don't bother looking up politicians, though. You're not going to glean anything important from that. But here's the truth. Big tech would begin to collapse and falter if a significant proportion of non-leftoids left the sites. And it's due to a psychological trait. People on the left are heavily correlated with going out of their way to be offended. It's like a sport to them. It's a part of their life. This isn't just a meme. This is a psychological effect that happens on people and correlates heavily with people who are on the left wing of politics. It just happens to be the truth. Therefore, if all the people they can be offended by were to leave the platforms, or even just a significant proportion, let's say fully 50% of all of the conservative, libertarian, and the non-leftoids, not counting liberals, leave like Twitter. They go to Gab, they go to Getter, whatever. What happens? All of the outrage mobs dry up. They no longer can use their sites to stoke their perpetual antagonism. It's not possible because there's nothing there to fret about. So they'll do one of several things. Number one, they'll start linking from other sites, and therefore promulgating them. That's number one. Number two, they will purity spiral and start attacking like the Jimmy Dore liberals, which they already do, and that's not without reason, by the way. Hint, hint, it's already happening. And they'll drive liberals off that site. Once they get through constantly deriding the liberals, people who are like maybe center-left, they're old, they're like an Al Gore Democrat or something. Those people will leave the site due to the constant harassment and trolling to get away from it and find themselves among much less frenetic company on a site like Gab or Rumble or something like that. They'll be on Parler and they'll say, well, I'm not getting harassed by a bunch of people telling me I'm a Nazi here. This is rather pleasant, because the garden variety liberals, they don't want the antagonism. They want a calm site. The leftoids would be the last to leave, though, because they've already run roughshod over these sites' TOS. What ends up happening then? Number three, these people will join the Newtech sites. Why? Because it'll allow them to be outraged. They've already been linking to it, so they probably get a burner account, a lurking account or something. This is already happening, by the way, among journalists, etc. They use these sites. They just don't actively post material there. You don't even necessarily know their account. I'm surprised that someone hasn't started a coordinated effort to take all of the possible permutations of legacy media handles like at CNN and shit and register them on these sites to block them from ever gaining their accounts. Some of them will hold your account name, by the way. Like Getter was holding my official Twitter account name so that I could claim it. Most of these sites don't do that, though. There's barely a legacy network that has any Newtech presence whatsoever. They're doing exactly the same, by the way, and this is another further reason to not be demoralized. They're doing exactly what they did with social media. Do you remember this, by the way? Early 2000s? I do. I remember it as plain as day. News article after news article. These social media sites are dangerous. They're full of conspiracy theories. They're full of evil. And then what ended up happening? They realized how many people were using them, and they all got accounts there. CNN ran hit piece after hit piece about YouTube when it was in its infancy. Then they got a CNN account. And now they've helped corrupt the site, and they're priority creator, and they get their material willfully promoted beyond independent content that actually built the site, which is one of the problems with the site. They couldn't beat them, so they joined them. That era is fast approaching with Newtech. I think that the real big paradigm shift in tech happens when Truth Social goes live, assuming that it can survive. Truth Social, because Trump will be there, because it'll have a multi-billion-dollar valuation. It's got investors that clearly think that the idea, the concept behind it can work. From day one, it probably gets millions of users. Probably crashes the site at first, by the way. It'll be touch and go for the first few days or weeks. Once it stabilizes, all of those legacy pundits, all of those leftoids will start linking to the content because Trump will be there. They will be offended by what he posts. It'll be just like when Trump was on Twitter. And they will analyze, microanalyze, reanalyze, spin, propagandize, post, cross-link, write blog articles on their shitty Tumblr page. And the site will get more and more audience. It cannot be helped. Trump uniquely is the one that'll pull it off. It's partnered with Rumble. You see the growth of Odyssey and forks from Library. You see the growth of BitChute. You see the growth, massive growth on Substack. You see the growth of Parler and Getter and Gab and all of these other sites and Minds.com. They're all growing. I don't think any of them is getting smaller. And some of them are growing far faster than their initial ratio of usage, so they're gaining more and more shares. I think Substack and Rumble right now are the ones taking off the most. Truth Social, I think, will end up joining that club. Locals and stuff. Telegram, which, by the way, the German government's seeking to ban. They want to block Telegram because people are using it to organize rallies. Well, motherfuck, if you're in Germany, get a Minds.com account. Use that instead. Just as easy. Who gives a shit? Here's the thing. Big tech would begin to falter. Number one, it would have lost a double-digit share of its user base if there was a mass exodus of right-wing creators. And that's technically already happening because they've literally banned some of these people off their platforms. InfoWars, Alex Jones, you realize how many subscribers they have on the Newtech sites? They're doing just fine. Bongino gets a ban on YouTube. He tells him to fuck off. He's 2 million people follow him on Rumble, dude. He doesn't care about the less than million, I think, that follow him on YouTube. They've all moved to Rumble. Donald Trump has an account there. Their White House accounts. The White House account is replicated on BitChute. It's replicated on Odyssey. All the big creators of the modern age, myself included, have moved to one or more of these platforms. The only sad part is that more creators don't shout them out more often and make exclusive content. If any 100 or 200 reasonably sized non-leftoid creators cross-platform, they're a blogger, they decide to make a Substack. They make videos, well now they've got a Rumble, they're on BitChute or whatever. They do the social media shuffle, they start putting some of their content on Minds, they start using Gab more. It would lead to a mass exodus of millions of people because of the heavily overlapped audience of these creators. If they all move to new tech, all of the interesting, edgy shit all of a sudden is not on YouTube. It's not on Twitter. The leftoids will follow it because they need something to stimulate them, and they don't have the capacity to create. They don't meme. They don't have the capacity to do anything themselves. They are a parasite in society. The leftists don't create anything. All they can do, it's like the average person is capable of creating things, altering things, and destroying things. The leftoids are mentally fractious to the point where they're not capable of creating. They can only alter or destroy. Well, then they need to go and piggyback off other people's material. They can't have independent ideas. They have to analyze other people's ideas, usually with a mind to ridiculing them. They can't meme, so they have to complain about and adapt memes that other people make, usually destroying them and getting laughed at in the process. By the way, that the left can meme book that you see being memed, literally, around the internet is actually a swipe at the left. That was not made by a leftist. It's not actually a cringy leftist guide. It's a satire, a clever satire, apparently, of the left not being able to meme. Why don't you take a look at the interior? You'll see that I'm true. Here's what would happen. Big tech would begin to falter, and then the Newtech sites would skyrocket. And then they would have to accommodate all those same leftists. But now all of a sudden the terms of service and the people running the sites wouldn't be leftists. And they're built on models that don't rely upon the old style of mass advertising investment because they've innovated. This is the new internet waiting to rear its head, along with blockchains and crypto. And again, all of the things that the whales in society said were terrible, suppressed willfully while cleverly buying in. Have you seen the charts lately on crypto? The number of people that are holding crypto, like the volume of trade and stuff, has been falling now for a couple of months. The proportion held by what are called whales, the people that hold a very large amount of crypto, has gone up and up and up. The amount of their holdings is still growing. The smart money is still buying in. Hint, hint, I'm not giving you investment advice, but when you see this, it looks a lot like early social media now, doesn't it? Early social media, all of the legacy media networks, the politicians have, oh my God, there's trafficking, there's drug sales, people are posting obscene things. It's terrible, this is going to rot society. Hey, I made an account. I wonder how they all managed to get those accounts, despite the fact that around the time that they started joining like YouTube and Twitter and shit, these sites weren't holding account names for people, and yet they all have their official special URLs. It's because they registered them long before in the first place out of an abundance of caution. They're going to do the same, by the way, with Truth Social. I predicted it'll have tens of millions of users in short order, overlapped with Rumble that already gobbled up locals. It's a nexus, a whole lexicon of different tech. And that's just one of the new poles of power that's forming within the internet. We're going into the new age of the internet, everyone. I really hope that you're aboard the train, because it's already left the station. Left the station a year ago. I talked about this. You know, if you didn't branch out, then you're fucked. Well, there's still time to make up for lost time, but if you're a creator, you need to get an account and not just say, hey, I've got a Substack account where I'm doing journalism, and then never mention it again. Hell, even people that make occasional exclusives, like Razorfist has made a few exclusives on BitChute and other platforms, which is great. But he doesn't generally talk about the fact that he has accounts there, and so he's not growing as quickly. The dude has an audience comparable in size with mine, and yet on the new platforms, he's holding himself back. And I like the dude and want him to make more exclusive content. I don't know. There aren't that many people who haven't been blanket banned on all of the old tech sites, like Dave Cullen or something, that make a great deal of exclusive content. And while that time eventually is, I believe, inevitable, over the next year or two, I think more and more people will be using these sites because they'll get banned off of all the other ones. Why wait? There's no reason. Why be at the back of the pack when you could, at this point, you could still, you may not be riding in the engine itself, but you could be in the first car. The smart money's still piling aboard and people looking into investing in these sites. It's happening. I had a fucking dream last night about investment into BitChute. It'd probably come true because this has happened before. I don't know what to tell you if you're not getting aboard Newtech. It's like people that at the outset, and I was one of them, Bitcoin's around. It's like $2 a Bitcoin. I'm like, oh, maybe I could buy a few of them. That sounds kind of funny. And I thought about doing it. The only thing that held me back, if I had the income that I had now, I would have dumped $1,000 into it and I'd be a millionaire right now, by the way, was the fact that I was too poor. That's the only reason I didn't buy in. Wish that I had gone against my inclinations, you know, I'd buy a beer here and there. I say, I can set $100 of my beer fund aside for Bitcoin. Oh yeah, I would only have like fucking 50 Bitcoin right now. I'd be sitting pretty. I wouldn't be worried about having to edit at a breakneck speed. Get aboard Newtech. Links in the description. There'll be a pinned comment down below as well to 3 of the main sites. I'm mainly a video creator, so I'm going to link those out. I'll also link the Substack. Substack is something I enjoy doing, that sort of journalistic style of writing. Seems to be a good reception. People seem to really like it. That's about all. Peace out.